Welcome back to another episode of Healthy Actions Intervening Responsibly, known as HAIR. I am Jacqueline, the founder, and I am your host. Thank you for tuning in with us today. And if this is your first time, I am so glad that you have chosen to spend your time with me today. So today's episode, I'm very excited about. I've been excited about every single one of our episodes. And so I look forward to even the episodes that are to come. So we are going to be talking about one word. And we're going to define that word. We're going to give examples of that word. And I'm hoping that as you are tuning in with us today, that you would dig deeper within yourself and go on this journey with us as we discuss the word resilience. Yes, resilience. And so, when I first heard the word resilience, it was new to me. I hadn't really given much thought about it. Even after hearing it for the first time, and I've heard many references of resilience and people that have experienced trauma and how they build resilience and what resilience looks like in their lives. And I have to be honest, as there was a lot of comment about the positivities of resilience and the multiple stories that come along with resilience, I was looking at my own self. I was looking deeper within my own life. I was reflecting on my own childhood. And at the moment that I heard that word, I couldn't find too many positive things that was going on in my life. So I thought. But what I found to be necessary and useful was that space being made and created to reflect on the areas where resilience was present in my life. Matters. Learning environments must be conducive for learning. People need to feel safe when learning, even when it's learning a new word or learning something for the first time. So again, I looked within myself and I began to scan for areas in my own life where I could find some resilience and where I had built resilience. And that's one thing that I learned, is that resilience is a human capacity. It is not something you have or you don't have, but it's something that is built and built within individuals. So let me say this about resilience. Resilience is the ability to return to being healthy and hopeful after bad things happen. It's the return, the ability to return to being hopeful and healthy after bad things happen. So what I found is that I had to do a lot of resilience building. And resistance, okay, so I said resistance, right? So resistance, when building resilience, I find that there is a need and it is necessary to resist unhealthy behaviors for the sake of self-care, self-preservation. I found many areas in my life where I was resisting unhealthy behaviors or unhealthy actions. And as I look at building resilience, I looked at lots of surveys and studies that are out there. Lots of research is out there about resilience. So I want to jump into this. What resilience look like? As we look at having resilient parents, I want to reflect back on our previous show where we talked about parenting styles. And it is very true that in order to solve problems, to build, to move forward, to make adjustments, to make changes, many of us, we factor in and consider our previous experiences. And that means negative and positive. So when we look at what it takes to build resilience, you know, it is again one's ability to return to being healthy and hopeful. Healthy and hopeful. And the truth is that a lot of people are not there yet in terms of healthy thoughts, healthy actions, and hopeful all at the same time. And so, you know, for individuals that still have those struggles that they're working through, they're trying to get on a path of healing, and they are the ones to decide for themselves what healing is and what that looks like, is that they need patience. Like, we need to be patient with people. We need to be listeners and be non-judgmental. And we need to be unbiased, which means we need to understand and recognize our own biases, and that we all have them. So as I shared in a previous episode, I talked about a resilience survey that professionals across the nation during my trainings participated in. And so, you know, some of those questions, once again, that I addressed were asking adults, how did they feel about their role in the family? If they were, you know, responsible for taking care of younger siblings, if they were expected to help with the household finances, if they were expected to help care for family members, if they were expected to, you know, if they were the person to keep the family together or to mediate conflict. So we talked about that. And again, a lot of adults have experienced many of those things in their childhood and have not necessarily been able to address those matters, to even be able to kind of like process things, but grow up, get over it, and move on. I know very much a lot of people are expected to just grow up and just move on. Hey, that happened when you were young. Hey, that happened when you were 12. You need to let it go. And I disagree with that. I believe that experiences that we have, both negative and positive, certainly can play out and manifest in greater manifestation in terms of health and decision making in your adult life. Especially if those things were traumatic, were negative, had an impact on one's health. You know, in fact, even in terms of like the decision making ability, it does matter. And so one thing I want to do today is like, let's talk about even some more of those resilient questions, like, or resilient statements. Like, it really does matter. And as I've been doing this work, going deeper myself, I am finding areas where I can heal those areas through various tools such as art, such as creativity, music, journaling, painting. I picked up my sewing skills, and so a lot of things I'm doing now really does help me to facilitate my own healing, empower my own self, and then to look further and go deeper into some of those areas that really were suppressed, were buried, were hidden, and that if I really want, for me, I'm talking about myself, if I really want the healing to continue, like continue on this path, then I must be able to be honest with myself, to be truthful with myself, to be transparent within myself, so that I can look at what was my responsibility and roles, as well as what wasn't my responsibility. I wasn't responsible for many of those things that took place in my life. It wasn't my fault. Though some behaviors were inflicted upon me, some thoughts were imposed upon me. And so that's one place I started at. What was my responsibility and what wasn't? And I am able to, I love what I came across through some research and sitting and participating in hours and hours of trainings and reading books and doing research. is that we can reparent ourselves. And especially in areas where we feel that we didn't completely get what we needed, or there were some areas in our lives that did not really get to develop as we'd like it to be, or to grow at the rate we wanted to grow. But as an adult right now, I sit here with challenges that I can reparent myself and parent myself in those areas. And the things that I feel like I didn't get, I can give it to myself. I can give it to myself. Therefore, that means I am building resilience in so many areas of my life. So here's one statement that I just love this one so much, and I have to do a lot of thinking about this, as well as having some conversations. So then that means for areas where you're going to build, or you're going to, be brave and courageous, or you're not feeling brave or courageous at all, but you're feeling quite kind of vulnerable and unsure, and you might still decide to address those areas too, that those areas deserve as much attention, focus, and time as those areas that you are excited about and you're ready to embrace and take on right now, right? And so some of these conversations that I've been having, and I just so appreciate this platform to share my own experience and to share my journey, and perhaps it might help someone else. And so this is in no ways or form me providing counseling to you or telling you what to do or giving you advice. This is nothing like that. This is not a replacement of counseling or talking to a practitioner or taking your meds. Like, all of those things are very important, and should be individualized. So whatever instructions you've been given by a therapist, a counselor, a doctor, then I am saying continue on that path, or if you don't have that and you need that, reach out, to, and there are lots of services and resources that are available. And we have the internet now, right? And we can just about find everything everything, in the search bar. So I just wanted to say that, like, this is my own experiences that I am sharing that worked for me. And then there are some things I shared that I had to tweak, and I had to make some adjustments and some changes too. So I'm just, just saying, yes, it took me some work to get to where I am and what I do and my healing, that I'm at right now. So, and it's still taking even more work. So this question I love so much is, what were you told? What were you told by relatives of how much people love playing with you, or how much fun they had having you around? Like, what is your narrative? What were you told? What do people say? Has anyone said anything? Has anyone reflected on when you were small, when you were little, the day you were born, the day you came home? You know what? With my children, I frequently have conversations with them. And you know what? Those stories, those conversations, they don't get old at all. I've shared with them about the day I went in labor, the day you were born, the day I looked in your face, I saw your eyes, how long you were awake, how much you slept, how we played, how you laughed. I remember your first this and your first that. Like, those things are really important, in my opinion. I feel like they really, really are. And it can tell us about family. It can tell us about our family members. And so one thing, I want to make this connection to parental attachment, that I've done some research and learning, learning more and more about the importance of attachment, secure attachment, parental attachment, is that there's so many people and new moms, with the new baby in their arms, that have a lot of trauma in their lives, a lot of traumatic experiences. Some of them are living in poverty, and it doesn't take away from them being a great mom. And I think that is something we really also can understand and build on, is that those environmental, circumstantial things do not take away from someone being a great mom. No one chooses to be born in poverty. No one chooses to raise their children in poverty. No one chooses to live in dilapidated housing, deplorable conditions. No one chooses that. No one chooses to be in an abusive relationship. No one chooses to have the father of their new child to walk away and to have nothing to do with them. No one chooses those situations. And so when I think about attachment, as I've learned about this, violence and abuse can interrupt parental attachment, which is the bonding time and bonding space between a mom and their newborn child. So yeah, there are a lot of issues of attachment. So as I asked about that question, what did family members say about you? Did they enjoy playing with you? Does anyone talk about how you played? Does anyone talk about the games you played? Do you remember the games you played? Do you play games with other children? And what are those games that you play with other children? You know, I have some friends that have passed down some of the games we played when we were children with their grandchildren. It is always so much fun to see happen. I remember introducing, I don't know if you've ever played this game, it's called Rock Teacher. Rock Teacher, where we would sit on the steps on the front porch, and it was a time where it was safe. We didn't know anything different. We didn't know if there was danger around. We weren't aware of it, right? And so, like this game that we would play, sitting on the steps outside, and there would be a teacher in front of us that would have this rock hide in their hands and then cross their arms and have, you know, those who were playing to choose which hand they think the rock is in. So then the person would choose the hand they think the rock is in. If they were right, then they would graduate. They would go to the next level. Those that didn't would have to stay where they were. So I recently taught that game to my great niece's nephews. And they thought it was so much fun. They got such a kick out of it. They were eager, and I'm telling you, the competition was on. And so I began to talk with them about healthy competition. Like, competition is good. It might challenge us, you know. Competition, healthy competition, should really have us to look within ourselves. It should have us to look within ourselves, and the person that we are challenging is ourselves. So we had a great time with that game, and I began to think about, well, what are some of the other games, healthy games, that I played during my childhood? So yeah, looking at like family members that played with you, or family members that play with your children, or children in the family that you play with. What does that look like? Do you play and have fun times together? So I want to give one other example of a resilience statement. And you know what? Maybe we can even do this. I'm bringing the next one on. I'm coming back. I actually conducted this questionnaire even with my own family members. And I was shocked of the many results. Yeah, of the results. Where I thought and assumed people were feeling good and feeling good about themselves and happy in the family and felt like the family worked well together. Those results is not quite what I expected. And once again, it lets me know that I have been making a lot of assumptions. And that's what they were. So, here I am bringing and introducing the idea to you as well. Keeping it totally anonymous. And see what you get and how people are feeling about their family. Well, here's another one. When I really felt bad, I could almost find someone I trusted to talk to. When I really felt bad, I always could find someone to talk to. That's pretty heavy. Because trust is a huge issue, and we know that. A lot of times, how we break trust with youth and with children, A lot of times we would say to them, I promise I'm not going to tell anyone. I promise I won't tell your parent. I promise I won't say anything. But then a lot of times, well, there are two things here. A lot of times we break that trust because we have to, especially if it's in the case of something that's really serious. And maybe we can, do better by saying, now, if you share something with me that has you in danger or that can be harmful for you, I'm going to have to get someone else involved. I'm going to have to talk to your mom about this. So let's explore how you would like for me to have this conversation with your mom, or would you like to join me in having this conversation? But what I've seen happen based on my experiences, adults tend to go straight to whomever, it be a parent, a teacher, the police, and totally has violated that trust in so many cases where we have to. And that's where I think we should start including that in our conversations, to let children know, if this is something that is harmful or dangerous, then I may have to get someone else involved. But when there are cases where we can engage them, include them, and just even give a heads up, hey, I think I'm gonna have a conversation, with your cousin about this. I'm gonna have a conversation with your uncle about this. I want to see, let them know that I'm concerned about some things. I think we can do that. And I think that will send a message to the child that we can be trusted. We do care about what they say. It is important what they say. And so, again, some of the examples, and based on my experience, what I've seen is that you can very well know what someone promised not to tell or say or share. You could tell it's been said, told, and shared now because of a lot of behaviors, or the changes in behaviors, or the dynamics in the relationship. And so for youth, that can be a big, and totally break the trust. So trust is a big deal. Trust is a big issue. And it is pivotal that we consider that and factor that in all of our relationships and dealings and interactions when it comes to children. It's paramount. Just going back to children being able to trust us, or looking at you, were you able to trust someone? Did you have someone that you could go to and that you trusted, that you could confide in? Well, I was thinking about that. In my own life, I was thinking about trust, and I'm putting a list mentally, a list in my head. Who did I trust? And the times that I trusted them, were things brought back to me, or where behaviors changed? And one thing I also think about is a lot of youth are feeling very alone and isolated because they don't feel like they could trust anyone. And I think for us, our opportunities, we can start small with building trust with children. Something small to let them know that we are there for them. To do follow-up is really important with trust. And something I also learned is that people that harm children, the child is more likely to know that individual versus a stranger. And so when it's someone, that's close with the family, that's close with that child, they're in a position where they can build that trust. And, lots of things can happen with unhealthy adults, unloving, uncaring adults, when they have the trust of a child. And so my high hopes is that children be surrounded by caring, loving, trustworthy adults, and that it's clear who those individuals are. A lot of times it's not clear who those individuals are, and certainly there are times it's not clear to the child who those individuals are. So when it comes to resilience, after all the bad things that one may have experienced, after all the bad things one that may have experienced, we can look at, whether that individual has thoughts of an ability to return to being healthy about their life, about how they see things. Sure, many of us, hit a moment where we're discouraged or we feel like, it's just too much. Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know what to do. But when we have, future or follow-up conversations, that individual is pretty optimistic and, I'm feeling better. I can see the light now. I can really, really see how things, turned out. I can see the hope in that now. I can see the silver lining in that now. So it's important to know where individuals are, which means I am so committed to follow-up, like follow-up. How are they feeling now? And a lot of times I think that's an area we can improve in is our follow-up, and how a person is doing, how are they feeling, what have you done since the last time we talked? Did that work? How is it working for you? Like, all of that is follow-up. So I want to say these summarizing things when it comes to resilience, once again, is that, having the ability to build nurturing relationships, like that's work. It takes work to do that. And I think a lot of times we just want it to happen. We just expect for it to happen automatically. And a lot of times we don't know each other. We don't know what individuals like or what works for them or their perspective or how they see things. And that is really, really important as well in terms of like connecting with children. And once again, back to that question, how did people interact with you when you were a child? And also, how did people in the family build relationships or handle conflict? Or how do we let children know in our family that, hey, you can come and talk to me if you ever need to talk? Like, are we having those type of conversations in our families with our children? The other thing is, in terms of like resilience, is building social connections, knowing who's able to do what, knowing who has a capacity, knowing, the likes of and perspectives, of the individuals in our family. I think it's so many families that don't have a clue, about how others might feel about the same topic they are passionate about. Like, a lot of people talk about personality styles and traits and, all those things. And if that's something that we are subscribing to, if that's something that families we're basing our interactions off of, well, hey, how do we get to learn and know what someone's interests are? Have we had a conversation with them, or are we making those judgment calls and assumptions once again? So meeting those basic needs in terms of housing, clothing, food, water, sleep is also important. How are those needs being met, or are those needs being met in the lives of people that we love? Are we concerned about children and their ability to get a good night's sleep right now? Have we been talking to children, asking how did they sleep? Wake up in the morning with your household. Are we asking questions? So how did you sleep last night? Because that is just as important as what do you want for dinner? What are you having for dinner? And then also, let's go with food. Did you enjoy dinner? Like, these are great conversation starters, and these are great starters for checking in on family members, and certainly including children in those. These are humanizing experiences and conversations, like acknowledging the individual and letting them know I see you. But I know a lot of times we're so busy, we want to push past the hello, we want to push past the how are you, we want to push past the so how did that taste, did you like it, was dinner okay? We want to push past that how did you sleep last night, are you ready for bed? Like, and we want to push past, so do you like the shoes? When are you going to wear those pants? I saw you in that blouse the other day and that was so cute. Like, these are basic things, guys. These are basic, basic things that are great conversation starters, and to let someone know that you acknowledge them, you see them, and you care about what interests them, and to get, some communication going here on things that, might be really, really, really important, and might really, change the course of their day with just in small, tangible ways. The other thing I would say, learning about how children grow. Woo! Yeah, we're going to have a whole show on that one. Learning about how children grow, the different phases that they enter into, how their mindsets change. So these are all things that I feel goes on our resilience platter, right? Like, it's so many things together, combined, that help to facilitate and build resilience, that give someone the mindset of, hope and healthiness. Hope and healthiness. Hope and healthiness. Working together. Certainly, one of the most key and important things as far as learning if someone is healthy and hopeful is listening. Listening to the individual. And in that we can find if they are hopeful and helpful. And as I conclude, there's this one presentation that I attended, and the facilitator was talking about, youth who are writing lyrics, who are writing songs and writing poems. And what she said was that in their writings, she learned about their thoughts for the future. And learning about their thoughts for the future, she found that many of those youth did not have the future in mind just through their lyrics. One young man, for instance, saying, I want you to do this and do that for my vigil, for my prayer vigil. And when she had a conversation with him, he was not optimistic about being alive to the age of 18 years old. He was 16. And so his view of the time he had left was about 2 years. And that was a stretch. So listening is big, it's huge, it's major. It is one of our tools to help facilitate and to build resilience. Is listening. So for children who are taking on adult roles and responsibilities, one thing we can do is give them an outlet and a place where their voice can be heard. And that place can be that space right there where they are, asking them, what do you think about this? Is this too much? Do you think this is too much? And then allowing them to say what's too much. Allow their voice to be heard and expressed, that this is too much for me. I feel like I can handle this, but I think that is a little bit too much. And we can reshape, these outcomes for our children. We can reshape the culture and the environment when we're asking questions such as this and allowing them to be honest and transparent by saying, this is too much for me. So that was a lot, right? And it's so necessary, though. I know that it's valuable, so valuable. We have these conversations and these reflections even for ourselves. I am keeping in mind even the adults that lived through adultification. So thank you for being with me again. I look forward to seeing you next time as we're going to continue to bring great conversation, great topics, and important information that we can really use to help shape our children today and tomorrow. I am Jacqueline, and I have been your host. Thank you for attending and listening to Healthy Actions Intervening Responsibly, known as HAIR. Thank you.